Welcome to the Love Line episode of Dagnabbit, boys. Send your questions in right now. We'll get them answered. Valentine's Day.
Yeah, you're watching this on Monday.
Valentine's Day was today.
Friday.
Yeah. I hope you guys all had a great Valentine's Day, but, me and Cooper were talking about our crazy deep thought I had, is that love, it's just a chemical in your brain.
It's just a fucking chemical. So
it's just a chemical. So if you have a wife, if you have a husband and you're watching this, go break up with him. Because why are you gonna marry a chemical in your brain?
Yeah. Yeah, it's obvious that chemicals in your brain are not important in your life. They don't affect your decisions. They're not pretty much decisions themselves in physical manifestation. They're not. Yeah. They're definitely not your entire worldview manifested physically. They're definitely not that.
First, folks, it definitely is not your entire worldview. So if you thought it was, you're dead wrong.
Yeah, hormones and shit like that, molecules in the brain, have nothing to do with how you act, according to Shane, who is a guy who says that chemicals in your brain don't matter. So if
don't matter.
Yeah, so, this is a totally...
Cooper sounds like he's being sarcastic, but we had this conversation before, and Cooper said it was the smartest thing he's ever heard.
It was the smartest thing I've ever heard, and, obviously, so you're making the point that since it's a chemical in your brain, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, what if it is a chemical in your brain, love, and it doesn't matter, what would make it matter? What could it be that would matter?
Well, I think if it was like an authentic part of the streets.
Yeah, so what makes chemicals in your brain not authentic?
When they are just a chemical.
Yeah. Is the core of the issue that this is just literally something you can't see? And you could actually say that this belief is pretty similar to like medieval logic of just,
if you're blind, you can't see.
So what about...
So I'm blind to the chemical. I'm blind to the love, and we're all blind to it. We're all blind to love. So you think you aren't?
How are we all blind to it if it's something
you can't see it?
Yeah, but everyone on Earth feels it and makes decisions based off of it, and it affects their emotions.
And you're gonna let your brain tell you what to do.
What else would tell you what to do?
You fucking spirit.
Okay.
Your fucking spirit.
Can you see the spirit?
You can feel spirit, but you can't feel a damn brain. Shit's in your head.
You can't feel, like, releases.
I guess you have a headache. Well, if you have headaches, you can feel.
Have you ever felt angry?
No. Because I have this thing. I got this thing called stoicism, which is actually very badass. Being into, like, Marcus Aurelius.
You have it?
I got that shit.
Like it's a condition? You have it?
I have it like it's a thought system.
Do you think
which is different from chemicals?
Do you think there are like YouTube stoicism guys that are trying to like dom Valentine's Day?
They absolutely are.
Like their whole goal today is to like spend time with their girlfriend, but like not act excited about it.
Yeah, I mean that's 100% what's happening.
Just on the way to dinner, like she's like, "I'm so excited," and he's like, "Yes, we are going to eat food."
Yeah,
nothing more. Nothing less.
I want to shout out to all the women out there in abusive relationships today. Your day about to be lit.
I mean,
It's about to be the first good day you're going to have in the year.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly goes both ways. Some of them are just getting the shit kicked out of them like usual, and some of them are like, he's nice today.
So that must mean he's going to be nice tomorrow. And you were dead wrong, sister.
And you're dead wrong, but he's a coward, so he beats up on women who are smaller than him, and then he feels bad about it. So when Valentine's Day comes, you get wonderful gifts.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, the smallest infraction is going to be physical torment.
It's about to, yeah. But you're going to be lucky because today's Valentine's Day, he spends it with you. Tomorrow, he about to spend it with the woman he's been fucking at his job. So he's gonna probably beat your ass and then go and then fuck his work wife,
And tomorrow will be actually a great day for you.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna be alone.
And which is all you can ask for in an abusive relationship is to finally be alone. But the problem with being alone is you're alone with your thoughts. So you'll be thinking shit like, why? Why?
Yeah, and I hope you find the power to make a decision for yourself.
This is one of those unusual bits where it has to be dark enough to feel like you're not trivializing it. It has to be uncomfortable enough to listen to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, we're
It has to feel. It has to be so. It has to be uncomfortable enough that that I've actually thought about how horrible this is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it seems like we're having a lot of fun. I don't think people would think the bit is that we think it's awesome.
Yeah,
when people are abused in relationships, I think it is a very brass tacks description of a abusive relationship. And maybe if somebody's in one and they're listening to this, they'll be like, that shit is happening.
Yes.
And honestly, I don't think they'd be mad at us for mentioning it. I think they'd be like, what am I going to do?
That is what's weird about...
Act like that's not 100% true?
Isn't that what's weird about joking around about something, that you kind of have to... If you're going to talk about certain things, you have to go so far with it sometimes. Because, if you don't, you're a dick.
Well, it's also confusing, though, because sometimes you tell a joke, and if you have, an absolutely perfect reference or description of a negative situation, people will laugh. Because they'll have a release of, holy shit, he just said exactly what it is.
That's what's interesting about subject matter. Well, what is a very interesting thing about audiences' reaction to subject matter is if you refer to it glibly, it's easier to do than to not. Because if you refer to something glibly, they get to be like, oh, but if you refer to the reality of something, then they're thinking about it. And it makes them feel bad.
Yeah, you have...
when you talk, if you make jokes about the homeless, if you aren't talking shit on them, sometimes I think people start getting weird.
Yeah. Well, I think it's I think to some people, talking shit about homeless people humanizes them because you're critiquing them like other people in a way, where it's if you view them purely as pitiful subjects, then people just pity them.
But I'm talking glibly, to have a joke that's just ha, it's just a very a one-off sentence about it. It's without a lot of thought to it.
Yeah.
You know? It doesn't even have to be a fucked up joke. You can just...
I think people when it's a feeling.
Yeah.
When it just seems like it's just what you just said on stage, what they will just think walking down the street.
Yeah.
Because if you walk down the street in LA, you probably have a thought of oh, that's the saddest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
At some point you'll see something where you're that's one of the saddest things I've ever seen.
That's what's weird about, living in a city, is you just have to just walk around being sad all the time.
Yeah, I mean...
But some people are they don't feel sad at all. They're actually pissed off about it.
It is crazy to see a guy, at a bus stop with, an elephant trank foot and be mad at him.
Yeah. Well, they start getting mad at liberals. They start making it a political thing. It's you know what? Liberals gave him that foot. They think the foot is awesome. They think that foot is dope.
Yeah, it is crazy to see a homeless guy and be not my party.
Yeah.
Be no, both parties have power in a lot of places, and it's not Republican leadership that keeps homeless people out of rural Ohio.
It is, I've been reading this writer, Joseph Roth, who talks a lot about Weimar Republic.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a fascinating part of history, and such an important part of history. It's interesting they talk about the amount of homeless people in Berlin at the time, and then you read about what happened, and it's oh, they sent them all to concentration camps.
Oh, in the Holocaust?
Yeah, and it's damn, we're 20 years from that happening.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a possibility that we're not far away from that.
That's such a given with Nazis, I guess, where they're who are going to send the concentration camps? And even before the Jews, they're definitely the homeless. I mean, just first off,
anyone suffering.
They're like
anyone doing bad. In
Yeah.
fact, that's why they got rid of the Jews. They sent them to ghettos, and they were like, "Oh, great, they're suffering. Now they're annoying to us. Now suffering's bad." Because they're all things about power, you know? Motherfuckers suffering, they're all like, "You suck."
if arresting and just killing people is on the table, you're like, well, definitely the homeless people.
Yeah.
I want to be able to walk down the street and not see something that makes me sad. So first order of business, definitely those guys.
Isn't it weird that there's like a It is weird that what is strength is a debatable topic.
You mean like some people would say homeless people are strong and some would say they're weak type of topic? Yeah.
Isn't that weird that a thing as like that should be as broad as what is strength, you know? And I feel like it's kind of a unhealthy image of a society to have strength be based on aesthetics.
What do you think it should be based on?
Well, that's the tricky thing, because it's like sometimes it's like I have the irrational view of like, because of how I grew up, it's like, oh, real strength is powering through ugliness and finding some sort of like reason to keep going, you know? And that makes you escape, you know? It's like, I don't know, Mikey was talking about how people want to like impress him by talking about how much pussy they get and shit.
Because he's tall?
Well, because he's no, not because he's tall, because he was a D1 football player.
Yeah, that's part of being tall, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I just thought of the word tall as kind of all-encompassing.
No.
Yeah.
If you think of it that way, anyone that's over 6 foot and not a really good athlete has no reason to exist. Which is a thought I had in the shower today.
It is. I mean, it's a kind of a classic joke. It's just like when you see a really tall, handsome guy in comedy, and he's like never done any sport. So you're just like, you've just been goofy and huge your whole life. Like, if you were really fat, then it's like, okay, cool, John Candy. But you're not. You're like, you could have been in the NFL.
No one's gayer than like a guy over 6 foot that's straight. No one's more feminine than that.
I've noticed a lot of guys over 6 feet in this day and age where attractiveness is now like, you know, with the advent of Timothée Chalamet and Tom Holland and like, you know, sickly men becoming sort of hot. And
but
also
I don't think that that's a new thing, because I mean, we had fucking Al Pacino in the 70s and shit.
It's not like a new thing, but it's new for it being the mainstream hot. For a while, mainstream hot.
Dustin Hoffman was considered incredibly attractive in the 60s.
I don't think he would still be considered like the classic standard of hot. I'm sure I'm not saying he couldn't be considered attractive, but I'm just like buff, strong, manly, usually tall. Has kind of always been the standard.
I think as white people have moved away from city life, I think that the Western conception of what is attractive has changed. Because, I mean, you've seen these motherfuckers that grew up in New York. They're little bitty guys.
Yeah, but that's like very mainstream hot, is to be like a thin, maybe kind of shitty guy. Like being like kind of ugly and gruff and like weird facial hair and shit is like the hottest it's ever been and the most popular it's ever been.
You think so? Because I don't know. I think there's a little bit of a I guess it just depends too on which women you hang out with, I guess.
Like, I'm not saying if Timothée Chalamet was an actor in the 60s that people would say he's ugly, but like he wouldn't be considered as much of a leading man as Paul Newman.
Absolutely not.
Because Paul Newman just has that look, or James Dean just like has that look. I mean, James Dean wasn't.
But those guys became leading men in like the early 60s as this. I really do think like I mean, our conception of attractiveness is tied to like our perception of urban decay and where you should live, where you should grow up, you know? I think what is respected becomes tied into it.
Yeah, I think I'm just saying it's the most confusing time for how people are attracted to other people.
Well, it makes no sense.
It's the most idiosyncratic.
Nothing makes any sense from like a biological or genetic level, really. And people like to say that, oh, it's always going to be like this. This makes perfect sense. And it's like, none of it actually makes any sense.
I mean, it
I think
makes
white
sense, but it's always
supremacy. I
different.
think white supremacy is pretty fucking bad right now when it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah. But I think the general acceptance of a tall, buff dude being the standard for attractiveness is the weakest it's ever been.
I think there's a chance of that. I mean, I'll talk to Mikey about the women he's dating, and he'll be like, "Yeah, I'm dating a woman who works for Lockheed Martin," and it's like, I guess those are the women that want the fucking like 50s standard, you know?
Like us compared to Mikey in like the 50s, people just automatically be like, he's better, you know? But nowadays, there's a more varied response because some people, I think, are rejecting like a classic standard of like, well, he's tall and he's blonde, like classic, sort of like you're saying, white supremacist standards. I think it's being rejected more. I mean, there's tons of.
I also think this is a difference between like city life and like urban life and suburban life too. I think suburban life is more conservative.
Sure.
But also, that's going to be different in a place like LA, like the Valley, than it's going to be in like a suburb in fucking. I don't even want to say Illinois. It's going to be just if you're not around one of the major cities.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like in like not populated areas where like, you know, being some sort of artsy fashion guy is not valued, then like being a Timothée Chalamet is not going to be valued.
Yeah.
But I think being a Timothée Chalamet has the highest stock it's ever had.
I think it's also considered, I think a lot of what is attractive is also considered it's based on class a lot of times. And that's a big class signifier is not being gruff.
Yeah. But now like rich kids are looking gruff.
Are they though?
Distressed jeans, like.
But like, what is gruff? Like, I feel like gruff is like you look at the face and see pain. You know what I mean?
I'm talking about like dirty. They want to look dirty. They want to look like artists. They want to look crazy. They want to look like I'm fucking different. That's like more in style now. Like because we live in a very like nostalgic era. I think there's a lot of kids that like want to be Lou Reed, but we don't live in a Lou Reed world.
Yeah.
So you have kids that are like from like $1 million homes that are like wearing jackets from the 80s being like, I'm fucking crazy. And I think you find a lot of tall guys who are acting very goofy and not just going for straightforward attractiveness now because they're like, this isn't always working.
So I think I had a thought before about it. And I fucking got lost.
I think tall guys, like tall, classically handsome guys, are more shook than they have been because it's not a given that they're always the most attractive.
Yeah.
I think they're still very sought after by a lot of people and they fuck all the time. But like weird guys like us, our stock has been raised.
But I also think that happened in the 70s too.
I think it's been, yeah.
I think when you don't, here's the thing I wanted to talk about before, about nostalgia. I think nostalgia is an all-time high because there's no viable future. I think the future has been destroyed.
In the present.
Yeah, and the future and the present have both been whittled away.
Yeah, I mean, you need to have some sort of stability backing something you like, and there's nothing stable now, and nothing makes sense. It's all, it's why all the jokes are the same of like, nobody has a job you can understand, nobody is planning on retiring, nobody is really clear on their political views, they just know they don't like it. The only really agreeable consensus by everybody in America is that we don't like it. For different reasons. We don't like it for different reasons than some guy in the suburbs of Ohio doesn't like it. Not to slam Ohio this episode, but nobody likes it. And there was a belief.
You know what? I do want to apologize to Ohio. You guys have great opioids.
I mean, they suck a lot of dick. They just passed the 11th trans bathroom ban.
Jesus.
In the United States. Not like they're the 11th state to do it. So they suck.
I wonder number one must have been Florida or some shit. Florida doesn't know what it wants to be,
It
really.
might have been like Arkansas or Alabama. I feel like it was an A state. I don't know. But
Florida really has no clue what it wants to be, you know? Like, people want, they want simultaneously to be the South and to also not be the South. And they want to be like East Coast gritty sometimes, but also Southern crazy.
yeah, I mean, isn't that America?
I guess so.
It's like they just want to be anything,
Yeah.
you know? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to this country.
Probably nothing good, you know?
But I think people will always be surprised by how much longer it can go on.
Well, I feel like one misconception about the end of civilization, I think people think civilization is going to end with a boom rather than a 100-year slog of patheticness.
Well,
It's we're kind of in that race. We're not even a race. We're in a hobble down into nothingness.
yeah. I mean, I think that's what people expect too, though. You watch a lot of movies, and like every future dystopian movie is like the rich are even more separated from the general populace, and the poor like all work in a mine.
Yeah.
Like, so many future movies, that's always what it is just like the current issues with capitalism are like driven to 100%, where it's like the poor people all live underground now, you know,
Yeah.
and like it's just, yeah, I don't think it'll be with the boom. I think it's exactly what's happening right now, where there's like major climate events,
Yeah.
or like major government collapses that happen in other countries, and then you go, oh my God, that's crazy. And then one day it happens to you in your city.
Yeah, that's what's crazy about the fire in LA is it's kind of like, well, we're back. We're back to just doing what we were doing, you know?
Yeah, but it's like, what else is going to happen?
Yeah.
Nobody,
Nothing.
I mean,
Were we going to stop it? We going to stop climate change? We can't.
Yeah.
This has been a bleak episode.
Well, and
so
it's
far.
also like whoever's job it is to stop the fires, you know, it's not the general populace's job.
Yeah.
It's a select few people who control a lot of money, and they're supposed to do, you know, around the year forest management and controlled burns and make sure the reservoirs are full. And this year, none of that happened. And so it's just like, we all just sort of sit here and it's like, well, none of us want to get into fucking land management.
Yeah.
A few people do, but even when they do, they're not actually directly involved with the issues. They're involved with like politics, and it's like, you know.
Sucks evil is so easy. Such an easy thing to do. Because evil always is like it. It's always like a thing that works out in the short term. And for the most part, doesn't truly ever affect you. It kind of, like, you might get in trouble for a minute, but that shit fiddles away.
I mean, it's weird that there's things like the French Revolution, which, of course, changed France. There hasn't been a monarchy since, and it does send shockwaves around the world. But it's like crazy that something like the French Revolution can happen, and then there's still rich people trying to do the same thing, even if they're not called kings or queens. And of course, it's what they do. Of course, they don't just stop. They go, okay, we have to change. But it is just this weird cycle of like, how many times do revolutions need to happen, or you guys need to be killed, or climate crises need to happen, or governments need to collapse before you stop trying to weasel your way out? And the simple answer is just that they'll never stop, because rich people never stop. It's like they'll sue their own children if it makes them more money. It's like they just don't stop.
The morality of killing people has never been more ambiguous. I hear people got killed. I'm like, yeah, but who? Who's getting killed?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's when things start to fall apart, is like, because then it becomes easy for one person to come and be like, our killing's good. And then if you're dejected enough, then you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, with the CEO thing, people were trying to argue, like, well, killing in general's bad. And it's like, is it anymore? Is it bad?
Well, we talked about it, but it's just a silly argument, because it's like, of course, killing people is bad. That's a very good thing to say. It's a very easy argument to present, and we all agree that killing is bad, but you're now using the sort of objective fact that killing is bad to like eventually just try and support the business that this guy was in. Where it's like, you're not even really supporting his own life. Like, I think the people saying that were like, he shouldn't have been killed, I don't think they don't care that he was killed.
No.
They're trying to just protect the general interest of guys like him and themselves who are saying that. It's like, that you would kill that guy if it made you more money.
Yeah.
But it didn't. So you let that guy live. So it's just like,
you know, a civilization gets really fucked. This goes back to the French Revolution. There's a lot of people talking about it was bad. All these kids were killed. But a civilization's really fucked when you have to start being like, can you say these children are innocent? And you can't. They aren't innocent.
yeah, they are.
They're innocent. They're innocent as in the notion that children are innocent, but they aren't innocent in 20 years.
Yeah, but then they're not children.
I still don't think that you can go off and say, like, that those kids that were killed during the French Revolution, that was the wrong thing to do. That seemed like that's the kind of the right thing to do. You're going to just, because if you're going to cut off the head of the royalty, you're going to have to really get rid of this shit.
Yeah, but it's not right. I mean, sure, you can say right and advantageous to the people killing them. But if we're talking about a moral right, no. And that's why these conversations, I think, people get mixed up, because they're arguing different forms of right.
Yeah.
There's a moral correctness to not kill a child.
But we don't really live in a world where a standard black and white morality really is in of itself something that works or is something that you should strive for.
No. And that's not even what I'm talking about, a standard, but I'm just saying, if you're doing something, you should know why you're doing it. And you start to live like an inauthentic life. If you're killing people, women, children, or whatever, for your own advantages, but you're saying it is for a moral right, then you're doing a wrong thing. Because that will like permeate the entirety of what you're doing.
I just don't think I fully agree. You know, like in that case, from a political end.
Like, does it
if you believe in the political end, you know? But also it's like, you go back to the like, is the end, how can the end justifies the means be used to justify what you think is evil, you know? And then it's like, well, other people have different considerations, you know?
Yeah, and there's also like, no good government, nor will there ever be, nor has there ever been. So it's like,
I think I mean, it's also difficult to really judge the morality of killing children 250 years ago.
Yeah. And it's like,
but I feel like we're getting to the point where it starts to become ambiguous again.
But also the fact of the matter is like, when you're actually in that moment of staging a revolution and killing a child, your decision to kill that child has nothing.
But it's like, what do you do with the child?
It has nothing to do with your morals or your thoughts on the world. It has to do with your emotions and the chemicals that are in your brain at that time.
I disagree, because it's like, what do you do with this child of royalty?
Like, you don't make, I was just reading in the book about this. It's like, you don't make decisions like that based on a moral system, even if you have one. You make it based on what is the easiest decision for you to make. And so it's just like, if you're in the midst of all that happening and everybody's killing everybody, and you see a kid and everybody's like, kill it, you just kill it. You're not,
but it's also, we're not talking about just random kids. We're talking about the children of the ruling class.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the flurry of a revolution, when you're bursting into a palace and you're like, let's kill everyone in the palace, you know? You're acting in that moment, because you have to think about the moment you're doing it, is you're acting off like emotion and anger. Not saying that makes it wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that when it comes to actual decision making in the brain and what initiates those decisions, it's rarely actually from morals or some principled stance.
Yeah, I mean, the notion that it's not wrong is what's sticky.
To want a revolution takes morals and thinking and principles. To actually enact one takes like a trigger of emotion of like, well, now we're really doing, you know what I mean? Where it's like, we all agree with Luigi killing the CEO. But why did Luigi kill the CEO? Because he got improper care, his back hurt for so long, and it led him to a place of such rage where he was ready to make that decision. If me and you agree with him, why don't we go out and kill CEOs? Because generally, we're not charged up enough, furious enough to go do it. So I think that's the real delineating factor. And I think it shows that it's really not about what you believe or your morals. And I think that's why you have so many people nowadays, like us included, that have very radical views, but don't take radical action. It's because that radical action...
Well, they've created a civilization that we're so...
Of course, we're a product of the civilization. I'm not saying it's hard. I'm not saying we're lazy.
Yeah. Well, we're comfortable.
We're comfortable. We've been made comfortable, and that's like the real...
No matter how bad your life is, there's a level of like comfort that's been pumped into us.
I mean, yeah, what's like when you talk about the right decision, okay, morally right decision, we live in a fascist state. We should rise up with arms and try and change it. But what's actually right, what's like advantageous, what's comfortable, what is safe, is to continue living in poverty.
Yeah.
Because chances are you're not actually going to stage a revolution. You're going to be one of few people who is locked up, probably for life, because they're going to call you domestic terrorist.
Yeah.
And that's why most people don't do it. So the decisions are not made upon morality. They're made upon like what's advantageous to you. And then if you actually do it, it's probably because you have a flurry of, emotion and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the real fucked up thing. I mean, that is the reason that America retains such power, is that even the poorest people in America have iPhones.
Yeah.
And that does a lot, because at the end of the day, we have these highfalutin morals, but it all comes down to one brain and the chemicals within it, even though we've established that chemicals don't matter and love is fake. But, I mean, that's the real thing. It's like you're dealing with like a macro and a micro at the same time. You have all these huge ideas, but what's really going on in your brain?
You know what's the really fucked up part, though? The realization I had while we're having this conversation is none of this can be clipped up. And that just goes back to the point of the comfort thing, if we can't clip this up, like, why am I... It's like there's still just a level of cynicism to all of this.
No, it's optimistic, because the only radical act you can actually stage in America is releasing a genuinely unentertaining podcast. Because it's purely your ideas, not for the purpose of putting them into a minute clip. And that's what we do every week. We stage a radical act, which is a kind of droning hour of two 25-year-olds, 27, trying to make sense of a very complex world.
So I think I got a Instagram comment that I thought was really funny. A guy was mad about my racism being bad bit, and he referred to me as a redneck incel, which is so funny. Those combination of words, because you love racism, is so funny.
So you're saying that racism's bad, and he said that you don't have sex and that you're a hillbilly because of it?
Yes. It is interesting how those words have changed.
I mean, a redneck incel just sounds like a synonym for racist.
Yeah.
Like, how does he even get there?
It is weird. It's very... That's why it was so funny to me. It's like, so you love racism, so I must be these negative things that also are the people that agree with you?
Yeah, it's really confusing to figure out what side he's on.
Yeah, because maybe he just saw the bit and was like, I'm going to be mean.
He likes city racists who fuck a lot.
Yeah. He looks like Wall Street guys.
Yeah. Tech racists. Tesla racists. Guys who go into high-rise buildings and stare down at the street and go, look, there's an N-word down there.
I'm gonna fuck it.
I'm gonna fuck it. Because I get what I want. I'm gonna have lunch delivered, and then I'm gonna go on the street and I'm gonna have sex with a person of color forcibly. Because this is the stock trade, and that's what we do here.
Dude, we should get into stocks. We should start a coin. That's about to be the money. That's about to be all of the money, is the coins.
What happened to Hawk Tuah? Did she flee?
I guess so. She must have gone back to fucking Middle Tennessee or something. I don't know if she still... Maybe she lives in Nashville. I don't know.
Do you know her brother was the guy that committed the Pizzagate?
Are you sure, though? Somebody said that, and I'm pretty sure it was made up. A guy just, made that up. You can just make stuff up. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, we do it on the podcast.
You can also
every
believe
week.
it. That's how I think about it. Some people
Yeah,
did you know...
I wake up and smoke 3 cigarettes every day, and I think to myself, this is healthy.
I mean, yeah, it's
because
like...
you're allowed to do that.
You tell people that Hawk Tuah's brother was the Pizzagate shooter, and then people are like, that's fake. And you're like, why does it matter if that's my reality?
Yeah.
If that's the world I live in, how does that change anything?
Yeah. I mean, I think Viva La Bam, the guy from Viva La Bam, his brother was Stephen Paddock.
Yeah.
And that's fine to think that.
Bam Margera.
Yeah, Bam Margera.
Yeah.
His brother, Stephen Paddock Margera.
Stephen Paddock Margera.
The Asian woman he was dating, her last name was Paddock, so he decided to be Paddock Margera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, not a lot of people know that Dua Lipa's dad was Pol Pot.
Yeah.
And that he orchestrated the killing fields of Cambodia.
Yeah.
And that's where she gets all her money from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah. Barack Obama's cousin is Juicy J. So that's a crazy family. That family's awesome.
I don't understand the
Juicy
people.
J. Obama.
I don't understand the people who are think it is really they think Michelle Obama is a trans woman.
Yes.
Okay. I get how that's juicy gossip and people are attracted to that. I understand that part. I don't get why they think that's important. Even if you think that's true, why is that important to American politics?
Yeah.
It's okay, so if that's true, then she was born a man. But how does that impact policy? And then they'll look at me like I'm stupid and are you fucking kidding me? But it's like I've seen on Instagram some close-up video of her dancing and it looks like there's a dick in her pants. And then it's now that you've seen the truth, you can't go back. And I'm like, this isn't a conspiracy. Conspiracy theory, it used to be JFK is a good conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's was he killed by the CIA? That would make sense.
Or was he killed by his wife, who's a trans?
Yeah, it's him being killed by the CIA or whoever he was killed by, which was definitely not just a regular guy, has serious implications, obviously, for the future of America. I mean, everything that happened after him is because he was killed probably by an intelligence organization, and that changed the history of America and the world. Michelle Obama being trans, if that were true, would change nothing. And people are you don't get it. And you realize with most conspiracies, it's just this weird thing where people just want to have the feeling of thinking they know something others don't.
It's kind of a celebrity gossip, you see that shit while you're trying to buy a Kit Kat, up at the thing. You're like, oh, Michelle Obama's a man too.
I think people are just so devoid of meaning in their life. Because I've talked about this on the podcast before, but it's you'll see some people on Instagram who are talking to the other moms at school and they don't know that I'm a lizard people mom. And it's the only meaning they have in their life is believing that most politicians are lizards. And it's they hate their life. They're unhappy with their job and their children and their home. But they're my life has purpose because I believe there's fluoride in the water. The politicians are lizards. And really, it's just because they're stupid and they don't want to do research. And if you do research, you're not going to find out that everything's okay. You're going to find out that we live in a chaotic world with several, secret intelligence organizations and several, deep states, which are not even secret. It's just the cabinet is a deep state. They're unelected officials who oftentimes serve under multiple presidents. It's a deep state. And the truth is that it's just chaotic. They all work against each other.
When people that think that politicians are lizards, do you think when they see real lizards, they're like, do you think he knows Obama? Do you think him and Obama are friends?
Well, yeah, I mean, think about
maybe that lizard is has beef with Obama.
Yeah, it's like they think it frees them somehow, but it's like, imagine how much you have to fuck up your life to where you see a lizard and you're angry. You see a fucking
see a lizard, you're like, hey, stop telling me what to do.
Yeah,
quit giving me free phones.
You see a blue belly on the ground and you're like, stop letting trans people in bathrooms. Just like you're a mother of two and you're staring at a lizard.
You're at the zoo just getting pissed off.
Yeah, like looking at a gecko being like, you fucking have ruined the world. And it's like, people are so obsessed with the idea of truth that it just gets to this point where they're like, well, maybe it's lizard. And I don't know what it is about such insane. It's like the more unbelievable it is, the more sure of it they are because they've been told to not trust media. But then they trust media.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't trust media. I go on YouTube and I listen to a guy and he tells me what to do and I believe it fully. I've gotten out of the cycle. It's like, it would be better if you believed everything MSNBC says. You would have a better life.
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna... There's no such thing as truth. You pick your own truth, pretty much. Why are you picking this one? What has this got in you? You just got fired from your job.
Because you brought lizards to the job and were like, these are my bosses now.
You punched a pregnant woman's stomach. You said she's gonna give birth to Hillary Lizard Clinton. And you punched her in the stomach. And you're drunk. You're also
drunk at your job talking about lizards.
Yeah, and they're always fucked up. They're always like addicted to prescription meds or fucking winos or some shit. Like, not at all thinking about what's going into their own head and being like, we're fucking surrounded. It's like, you're mentally ill. It's why your grandfather crashed his car into a barn and let himself burn to death. It's the same reason you believe in lizards. It's the same reason your mom grew up without a father and beat the fuck out of you and said everything you said is wrong and stupid.
And why your mom had a pet lizard that she would pull out of the cage and be like, this is the only thing in this house that I love and respect. This is the only thing that'll grow up into being anything.
I don't understand all these people that are like, I'm doing all the research. And it's like, have you researched yourself? Are you aware of any of the behaviors that you exhibit today and how they interact with your childhood? And why? Because I bet if half the people who believe in conspiracies engaged with their childhood experience and what formed their conception of self in the world.
So the Pizzagate guys would just like wake up one day and be like, when I was 8 years old, I was molested by a pizza man.
I mean, it would take 10 minutes of just a little amateur psychoanalysis to look at yourself and be like, oh, that's why I believe everything. If you want to know why you believe stuff, think about what happened to you for 10 minutes and the bridge will be built before you can even cross it. Like, it's right there.
Do you think guys that are like, do you think the pedophile hunters are ever just like, do you think I'm obsessed with pedophiles because I want to do it? Like, why am I always thinking about pedophiles?
Yeah, I mean, it's one or the other.
Yeah.
You want to do it or it got did to you.
Yeah.
Nobody has a completely safe life away from any trauma.
You know what'd be funny? We should catfish a pedophile hunter and then have him on the pod. Like, reverse the thing.
I mean, they'll just come on the podcast.
You think so? But I would like to trick them.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty defensive guys.
Yeah.
So, also people
there's a pedophile over at Cooper's apartment, and we can't get him to leave. Oh, shit, he left. You want to come sit in and talk about it for 3 hours?
It's funny to call him like an exterminator. There's a pedophile in my apartment. He's under the bed looking for kids. I need you to get him out of here. I don't know. I left some cookies out, and it attracted pedophiles. I got like 3 of them in my apartment. Can you come and videotape them? That's what the thing
I left
about
Bluey on my laptop. All the pedophiles came over.
That's the thing about the internet, though, is like in the old days, a guy hunting pedophiles did it because he got fucked or because he wants to fuck. But nowadays, guys are just doing it just because it can be on the internet. I think that's one of the saddest things nowadays. It's like you don't know why anybody does anything.
A guy that's just like catching pedophiles makes me money. And they'll make me famous if I caught pedophiles.
I mean, you talk about how, business just dehumanizes everything, and social media is like makes life a business. So now it's like so many people are doing things just because anything can be marketable, which kind of sucks, where it just feels like nobody's weird anymore. Where if some guy's like, I fucking put googly eyes on my shit. In the 70s, you're like, you're a crazy person. But nowadays, it's like, oh, you post reels of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I get why you would do that. That would get a lot of views. Where like, anything you see, even if it's real, is not done with any kind of intention outside of it getting views, which makes things less interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's why there's nostalgia. Like, there's not real freaks if being a freak is completely profitable.
Yeah.
If everything can now be profitable, anything is part of the market. And if it's part of the market, it's not, I think, really that inherently interesting anymore.
Damn.
Or at least its intention. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's going to be crazy with AI, where the AI is going to start catching pedophiles. And the AI is going to have to be like, well, I guess you technically didn't do anything wrong. Did they even technically do anything wrong? Like, I guess trying to solicit sex for a minor, but isn't that technically like illegal to do that?
Yeah, there's laws against that, I'm pretty sure. There's definitely, I mean, I think like talking to a minor and like having a sexual conversation with a minor, and I think definitely sending pictures. But I think like intent is against the law. But a lot of times those pedophile hunters do a disservice because they're using illegal tactics. So all of their cases are completely just thrown out of court.
Yeah.
Like any lawyer will be like, they lured the guy and then kicked his ass.
Yeah.
And then the judge has to be like, yeah.
And they're reading through the transcripts and they're like, hey, I'm a 12-year-old. I have $2,000. I'm going to pay you to have sex with me.
Yeah. Which then sucks because it's like these guys that, I mean, it sucks and it doesn't because it's like the cops were never going to do anything.
Yeah.
Because they're pedophiles. But it's like, yeah, then the cops are like, okay, cool. Like, we believe this guy's a pedophile, but legally, you have now completely exempted this guy from any prosecution. You dressed him up like a duck.
Yeah.
And you cut his balls.
Do you think any cops get those calls and they're like, oh, a pedophile's there? And then they're like, we're a pedophile hunter. He's like, oh shit, we're gonna be on YouTube? Oh, we'll come. They're like, we weren't going to come if it was just a pedophile, but since we're going to be...
content.
Yeah.
That would be funny if they're like, there's a pedophile at the mall, and the cops were like, of course there's a pedophile at the mall. What are you calling about?
Yeah.
You're at the mall. That's where pedophiles are. Get out of there.
You need to be safe and stay out of public places if you don't want to run into pedophiles.
The only people at the mall are children and pedophiles. Are you an adult? You're a pedophile. They're like, what are you doing? Dude, you're telling on yourself. It's like, no, I'm a pedophile hunter. It's like, shut up. You're a pedophile looking for friends, is what you're doing.
Yeah. Is that what you're hunting for?
What about that? What if a pedophile wanted to make friends, so he lured another pedophile with the promise of a child, and then he shows up at a Panera Bread, and he's like, hey, I'm not a hunter. I just need somebody to talk to about this.
Yeah, I have all these urges. I don't want to. Should I?
And the guy's like, fuck, me too.
Yeah, I have these urges too. Maybe we could just talk about it.
That'd be nice.
Yeah,
for them
to have sponsors. Pedophile calls another pedophile. He's like, there's a child beauty pageant on the TV.
Fuck, that's awesome. A pedophile sponsor is funny because it doesn't really stop you from like having the urges. It's just a guy to call and be like, kids are hot. But like just getting it out keeps them from doing the crime. So it's like a weird thing where it's not like, well, you can work through this. It's just like, dude, I know, go jack off about it.
Dude, I'm at the mall. I took a wrong turn. I ended up in the child bathing suit aisle.
Do you imagine?
I just needed somebody to tell me how cool it is that child bathing suit aisles exist.
Being a pedophile must be so crazy because you're going out clothes shopping and then you subconsciously just walk to like the children's bathing suit section and then you're telling yourself, you're like, I'm lost right now. Like, just the amount of lies you have to tell yourself to be a pedophile where you're like, yeah, I was in Target and on my way out, I just took the child's bathing suit section route. I'm just here right now. I'm also a pedophile.
Yeah.
But this is just how I'm leaving the store. Sorry. Is that your kid?
Oh, great. There's a child in the bathroom.
Parents hate it when you walk up to them and say, is that your kid? And then when they say yes, you go, nice.
Is that your kid? Oh, I was just making sure you weren't another pedophile. Thought we could, maybe swap or something.
Sometimes I go to parents, I go, is that your kid? They say yes. I go, play on, player. And I dap them up. Hey, good looks. Hey, good work.
Pedophile just drinking sperm because these are the youngest kids possible. This is as young as you gonna get.
I ain't gay, but I let dudes nut on my face. These shit's young as fuck.
Yeah, it ain't gay. I'm imagining it's girls.
I'm such a pedophile, I'm gay. Because these sperm, it's not even a fetus yet. It hasn't even touched an egg. That's how young it is. It's barely a human. Yeah, they just like, even water gets them horny. just the idea of carbon, just anything that could.
He's just looking, jerking off to molecules in a science book.
Oh man, this could form life. just jerking off to pictures of the primordial soup. Looking at the algae ring just when it was the only biomass on Earth. Just like, oh fuck. I just love life.
Yeah. It's cool. We talked about the apocalypse.
I put tadpoles in my butt so I can shit a frog and cum.
You guys checked out this evolutionary chart? That shit's hot.
Man, I'm always jacking off to the first motherfucker. Yeah, if you're a pedophile, you must really get off to early humanoids.
Yeah.
You're like, damn, Neanderthals? That's like the baby of humans. Homo erectus? That's like in the grand scale of things is a baby.
My man listening to music hears the first note get hard, and then he's like, no, let's get back to that first note.
This motherfucker is such a pedophile, he's jerking off to pictures of unfinished buildings. This motherfucker's jerking off to a brick, talking about that's a baby building. Motherfucker's jerking off to wet cement, talking about that's gonna be something it's not yet. Motherfucker's jerking off to the idea.
My man fucking
universe.
cement talking about, oh, that's a pedophile.
This shit, the baby version of a house. And houses be having babies.
Oh, these baby bananas. Okay.
Motherfucker jerking off to seeds, talking about you know what's going on. Motherfucker's jerking off to a tree, talking about you could cut this down, turn it into wood, which could be built into something. Motherfucker thinks pedophilia is just appreciating the basic elements of things. Jerking off to the periodic table like a dumbass. That's good.
My man cut everything electronic in his house in half, and he'd be looking at the parts jerking off.
This motherfucker got 4 advanced degrees in quantum mechanics just to jerk off to the universe's most basic parts. This motherfucker is at the Higgs boson collider. This motherfucker is jerking off to the Large Hadron Collider, trying to jerk off to the most basic molecules. He's trying to find something smaller than an atom so he can jerk off to it.
My man going to the sex shop saying, is this shit made of atoms? If this shit's made of atoms, it's going up my ass.
If this shit has atoms in it, that would be funny. You're just asking, like, Science questions at a sex shop. Is this made of matter? It's like, wow, these are some of the most...
Wait. What do you do with this dildo? Oh, you put it in your ass? Let me try the scientific method real quick.
Oh, yeah, that's matter. Oh, yeah. I can tell it's matter because it's taking up space in my ass. This is awesome. I do like that. Trying to find the Higgs boson particle just to jerk off to it.
Yeah.
Because it's really small.
You want to put it in your butthole? We talk about pedophiles a lot. Is it because pedophilia at this point, we've done so much comedy, it's the only thing that's funny? It's just the worst stuff? The worst thing you can be?
I don't know. I think you... I mean, I think there's always an element to that. I also just think it's like... I think by the same flip of the coin is like if you do a lot of comedy, kind of you want to try and make everything funny.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes making everything funny will mean joking about a dark topic.
Yeah.
But it's also like I can laugh to really simple, innocent jokes.
I feel like I like jokes that are like really weird.
Sure. I mean,
like really weird, silly jokes also.
I think, essentially what we're doing with the pedophile stuff is like they're the stupidest jokes can be.
Yeah.
I think in a way, a lot of comedians try and get down to the sort of its most basic components, you know?
Yeah, so they like youth, so therefore what's younger than a molecule or an atom?
Yeah, and it's just like, I think most people would just...
You'd be jerking off to the number 0.
I think most people might want more from a joke, but if
like
you...
a perspective.
Yeah, but if
you came here for a perspective, listen to the first 30 minutes. Last 30 minutes, that shit's for us.
Yeah. I think that's why, it's like some people have like kind of silly rules about comedy that they don't realize are very complex. Where it's like they want some sort of air and perspective and attitude and persona. When it's like comedians will just think like the simplest possible joke is very funny. Like I was joking with a comedian last night where I was like telling Laura Peak I bought new boots. Or we started off, honestly, this is a good example of this. I was wearing a beanie. She was like, "Oh, I like your beanie." And I was like, "Yeah, it's a good beanie." Lets people know I'm the kind of guy to say it's cold outside. And then we just pretended to have a boring conversation of like, it's cold. So your earrings might get cold in the cold. And then she was like, "Yeah, I just hear you saying the same thing to somebody else." Where it's like, what even is that joke? It's like we're joking about like being boring and then about how it's funny to have the same conversation, which is why like in a normal workplace, a lot of things that like I think are funny are met with a lot more scrutiny than usual.
Yeah.
Like I was at the job I got fired from at public outreach fundraising. We had our circle and it went around in the circle where you ask a question and you answer it. And one question was like, "What's your biggest talent?" And a black dude in the circle said, "I can speak Ebonics." And so then when it came to me, I was like, I think I'm good at reading other people's emotions and also I can speak Ebonics.
Yeah.
Which like to comedians, everybody would immediately clock as a joke.
Yeah.
Because comedians don't go like, "Well, why would he say that?" They go like, the question of why would he say that is what makes it funny, and so I'm laughing. But at work, a couple people laughed, and then a lot of people were like, "Why'd he say that?" So I think like sometimes like the simplest comedy is actually the most stacked upon itself.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're actually giving them like 5 things at once, where you're like, I'm a no-nonsense guy and I'm talking about a topical topic. I'm talking about a famous person. I'm saying they're stupid. And really it's like this very layered thing actually. Because you're like, like kind of eliciting a lot of things from people. Like, don't you hate famous people? Don't you hate bullshitters? Don't you think Kim Kardashian's stupid? And I'm this kind of guy and I remind you of where you're from, Then like a comedian's favorite joke is just like, what if you fucking replaced all the pool balls on the table with fruit? And the simple answer is that it wouldn't work.
I have noticed at jobs I've had, or a lot of places I've been at, it's like, I feel like the stuff that kills the hardest is just low brow, dirty shit. I remember I killed at community college my first day. I went to a math class, and she gave us a thing that was like, make an analogy about math, like how math relates to you. you know? And I said, I think math is like meth because I'm addicted to it. And it killed.
Yeah, and people are like, it's so crazy he said meth in the classroom.
Yeah.
And I think you do comedy long enough, and it being funny to mention meth is no longer funny.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, you're mentioning everything.
Yeah.
So actually, what's actually funny, comedians are kind of the only people you can do like what if statements with, and they'll actually understand why you said that. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, you could be on a job with a guy, and then you get like a 30-minute break, and you could be like, what if we took a 5-hour lunch? Like if I say that to you, you would like chuckle a little, and then we'd probably get into a long conversation about what we would do on a 5-hour lunch. And it would just be funny because it's like, wouldn't that be silly? You say that to one of your coworkers and they're like, what do you mean? We got to be back in 30 minutes. And
I'll
you're
say
just
it
like,
depends on where you work too. Because like,
and it also
I know,
depends
I've
on
had-
the person. I'm not,
yeah.
I also don't like these conversations because I don't like being like, oh, comedian. It's like,
Yeah.
we're just people. It's different levels of humor. It's like I got along with one guy at my job just because he just understood more of the jokes I would make.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'd make jokes with other people and they'd be like, no, it's fine. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm not actually being negative, right? Like sometimes you make a joke that does have a negative stance and then people will respond only to the negativity and you're kind of like, why, what? I'm not actually being negative right now. Like I'm not actually angry. I don't actually hate this fucking, or even if I do hate this job, I don't care about it enough to actually sit here and be angry about it.
Yeah.
In the way you think I am, you know? But I don't know.
Anyway, so that was a fun episode. We did 30 minutes. We talked about the world, then we talked about pedophiles, and then we did a little bit of a comedy theory for everybody. So, you know, like the best podcasts. If you like comedy theory, check us out. If you like serious ruminations, check us out. If you like pedophiles, you can check us out.
You can check us out if you like anything.
If you like anything, we've probably talked about a lot of things. So if you like anything we've talked about.
And I don't care what you like. If you also like us, then you can like us.
If you like us.
You're not on the podcast, so.
If you especially check us out if you like us, if you think me and Cooper are handsome, if you think my haircut was really good. I mean, I have
who doesn't? Haircut. It's a great haircut.
My haircut's the shortest. Me and the barber talked about strip clubs for a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he had face tattoos. He was from Utah. He's an awesome guy.
Gangland.
Yeah.
Well, if you watch this episode, email us at dagnabbitboys@gmail.com or DM us at @dagnabbitboys on Instagram and tell us how your Valentine's Day went. Doesn't have to be an interesting story. Just tell us about it. We want to hear it. Did you go to dinner? Did you stay in? Were you alone? Were you with a partner? Were you with a situationship? And that'll give us.
If you were with a situationship, I'm sorry.
Was it good?
Yeah. Did you fuck? Was the sex any good?
But send us
Do you
anything.
feel empty?
Because it'll give us, probably 10 to 15 minutes on the next episode of things to talk about. Chances are none of you will because you're all selfish and you don't help anybody except yourself, and that's why you had a bad Valentine's Day.
So if you're any of our friends, if you're any of our many listeners, please let us know. If any of our personal friends will not write to us, our personal friends will not tell us anything.
If you saw a new penis or vagina on Valentine's Day.
It doesn't even have to be somebody you're dating. It could be like a homeless guy on the street.
Tell us what that was like. Did you expect it to be different? Was it what you wanted? Was it less or more than what you wanted?
Tell us about the urethra.
Did somebody have back acne? I do.
I used to have really bad back acne. But I no longer do, and that's good.
DM us about skin. Skin you've seen. Skin you have. Skin you want. And we'll talk about it on the next episode
of Dagnabbit Boys.
Thank you.